Alrighty, good morning, everybody.
Welcome to today's podcast. Today is October 15th, and this is podcast number 7.
Yep, of the Green Driving and Thriving podcast.
Absolutely, thank you.
Alrighty.
So, continuing on with our extreme weather topics, today we want to talk about rain.
Yep, rain. It's a big one, and it's coming.
It's coming.
You know, we're in California, so we're praying for rain.
Right, yeah. Please, it's coming, yeah.
But there are situations that can actually be very hazardous to drive in.
Absolutely. So let's talk about some of that stuff, Mike. Some of the basics, right? And for, of course, a lot of this stuff is like, you hear it over and over, but definitely something to be reminded of. Tell me a little bit about, when you're driving, what kind of speed adjustment should you make if you're dealing with some rain?
Okay, so like we all know the speed limit, and the speed limit is the the fastest you can go on that road.
Yes.
In perfect conditions.
Perfect conditions.
And like inclement weather, that adds not perfect conditions.
Absolutely.
So like with rain, we would be looking at wet roads,
Yep.
standing water.
Yep.
These things are things that you should be looking out for. And with that, you're not going to go the speed limit because that's for perfect conditions.
Right.
So like the DMV recommends 5 to 10 miles an hour slower.
Okay.
But I would even go like, we've all been on the freeway.
Yep.
When you're hitting water and it's spraying up and you can't even see the car in front of you.
Right.
Like those are almost like, time to pull over.
Absolutely.
It's not safe to drive.
Yeah.
Or if you're driving 5 to 10 miles an hour max.
Yeah, no, I agree, and as we talk about these extreme weather, option one is always don't drive if you can avoid it, right? I mean, if it says it's going to rain until 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, try to take care of business after that. I mean, we don't always have that luxury, but I just wanted to kind of get that caveat out there. Option one is always don't drive.
Yeah, no,
right?
And it's important to we always go over trip planning.
Yeah.
And rain is a part of trip planning.
Absolutely.
Like you don't leave the house without an umbrella if you know it's going to rain.
Right.
So like you also have to plan your trip based around like, oh dude, is it going to be raining really, really heavy when I'm on this freeway?
Yeah.
Slower
speeds, more traffic. I mean, like all that stuff, right?
Yeah, the side roads might be a part of your planning.
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Because high speed, there's standing water.
Yep.
You could hydroplane.
Yeah.
And then also the maintenance on your vehicle.
Yep.
Like they're if you have tires that need to be changed or starting to go bald a little bit. You're doing your measurement with the quarter.
Right.
It's supposed to be the quarter.
Is it a quarter?
Yeah,
Okay,
the penny. That's the Cheapman's.
Okay.
We're like, the penny's head is closer to the thread.
Yeah.
But the quarter's deeper, so if it touches the George Washington's head, it's supposed to be time for new. Your tread is dead.
And it doesn't even have to get all that far down. Like if your tread could visibly look, decent, and its performance again in not perfect conditions is certainly going to be less. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And there's an ancient video that we like to show to all our instructors.
Man, it's one of my favorites.
But it's called Water Skiing on Four Wheels, and it was done in the 70s.
Yeah.
But it takes a piece of glass and they put a camera under it, and they drive a car over it with bald tires, with new tires, and at different speeds.
Yeah,
and
we'll put a link to that video in the comments here, so you can take a look at it.
Yeah, in the description you'll see the link to the Water Skiing on Four Wheels.
Yeah,
but honestly, it's one of my favorite because it perfectly encapsulates what the traction looks like.
Yes.
On your your tread.
Yeah.
And what different speeds the water gets into those grooves.
Yep.
And almost looks like it's completely smooth.
Yeah, you're just literally sliding across the top.
Yeah, and what's crazy is if you think about the traction to the ground that your vehicle is on, it's literally 4 hands.
Yeah, right.
3,000 pounds held onto the ground by 4 rubber hands.
Yeah, no, I mean that's a good way to look at it, man, because that's a reality that we feel so very comfortable in our cars most of the time, and under safe conditions we are, but suddenly when you start to lose traction in a situation like that, it does not feel safe at all.
Put a rubber glove on, get it wet in the sink, and then have someone try to pull a fork out of your hand.
Right.
That's what literally is.
Yeah, there's no friction.
You can't continue with and adding on to that, the oil and grease that
man.
are on the ground from cars driving by.
Yep.
It makes a slippery, solution.
Right.
That I believe it's called a slurry.
I was going to say that's right, slurry.
Yeah. And that happens at the first rain, but it can happen at any time.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. There's an area where in the driver's handbook here, the DMV says that you should slow down to avoid hydroplaning. Slow down to like 50 miles an hour, and I say even slower than that. I mean, my recommendation is 40. I have personally hydroplaned or felt a little hydroplaning at speeds under 50, 45. So to me, it's worth slowing down to 40. And again, option A, don't drive through that situation where you have any sort of standing water, but you definitely want to go through there nice and slow.
Yeah, and also speaking of standing water, if you come up to like a large portion of the road that's in standing water, you can't tell how deep it is.
It's impossible. It's impossible. And it makes me laugh, Mike. In my younger years as a young adult, I took the risk of trying to drive through a puddle. There were other cars that were driving through, and I got about halfway through, and coming from the other direction was just a big semi truck, and the thing had it was pushing a wake.
Yeah.
And so that wake went right over the hood of the car, and then the car stalled out, and there I was in the middle of this deep, huge puddle. Car just, I'm stranded. I'm stalled. Car, water sinking. Anyway, I totaled the car. And I thought it would just be a quick, easy, how much time was I not willing to, right?
Just to turn around and go down another way.
Easily could have rerouted. So that was definitely one of those things I learned the hard way with that. So, don't drive through the standing water. Another, potential hazard that we face is running water.
Yeah.
Right. Suddenly, flash floods and stuff like that, which is a whole other deal, right? And what are the rule of thumb around running water?
Running water. So the way that we've, we looked this up because we weren't 100% sure.
Yeah.
But it was halfway of your rim.
Yeah.
So
which is not very deep.
Not very deep, and honestly, I would not.
No.
Like if it's gonna because halfway up the rim to most cars is touching the body.
Yeah.
When a running water hits the body, that's like a sail.
Just throw your float.
Yeah. Well, I mean, think about all the water pressure.
You're 100% right. Yeah. That's definitely.
Like lifted trucks and like certain SUVs have. It's got probably some clearance, but. Like an average sedan.
Yeah. Oh, dude, forget it. No, I saw a video, very disheartening, man, and it was a line of cars that had stopped, and they're assessing, should we cross, and it was a flash flood situation. It was and it's running through, and everybody's kind of, a couple people are out of their car, and they're checking it out, and then all of a sudden here comes I think it was a Land Cruiser, something that may have, what I'm saying, like to your point about an SUV, you got a little more leeway, you got four-wheel drive, and this guy just came around the whole line. I'm gonna go through, and he goes through, and he starts, and then all of a sudden the running water got him, man, and he starts going, who knows who's in the truck with them, family, having free, anyway, you see this guy get swept right down the river, and they obviously don't show the end of it, but man, it's just one of those situations where you go from 0 to 100, and now it's a disaster. You may have killed yourself and your whole family.
Yeah, you live to see another day.
Live to see another day.
Yeah, that, and especially with the cost of cars, you're talking about $50,000 mistake.
Yeah.
Driving through a puddle.
Right. If you survive.
Or running water or river.
Yeah.
These things are not something to risk.
No.
Yeah.
No. There's, that's definitely a tough lesson. And hopefully, if anyone else who sees that video, it sort of, lands in the way it landed for me. Because I've tried a couple of situations in pushing through some water, man, and I've never had any luck with it. So I 100% learned it's just not worth it.
No,
it's not worth it.
It's not worth it. And going with not worth it, like when we talked about earlier, sometimes it's not in your trip planning.
Right.
like the trip planning of in a rainy day, like like a rainy day during the day, you cloudy, like it's not perfect conditions, but if it's not raining too bad, driving's fine. But night adds a whole nother factor because all those headlights, all the little beautiful jewels on your of the raindrops on your windscreen, they turn into bright lights. And heaven forbid someone has their high beams. Each one of those are a blinding refractory, like like they bedazzle your windshield.
Totally. No, absolutely. No, that's something that the night drive again, right? Like option one, avoid it. Right, and then option two, just extreme caution and follow some of the slowing down, increase following distance. I mean there's things that you can do, that we would encourage but having that glare, I mean that makes it almost impossible.
Yeah, and that's where it's important, like we talk about like what can you do to avoid the situation. But how can you best be prepared for that situation? Right. Monitoring the status of your windshield wipers. Like we change our windshield wipers every year around this time, October, before November. Because when the rain starts, it's too late. You don't want to be out on the road and
not
have
one
those,
time. You want to get caught out there streaking and your visibility's already poor. Now it's just worse. Mud streaks.
Go around the car with that quarter. Not the penny, not the penny or the dime, and you make sure your tread's good all around. And get your tires rotated when you get your oil changed. Like stuff like that, just to kind of keep up on that, so that you can know and trust in the capability of the vehicle when those situations do arise.
It's important. It's important. Tell me a little bit about at Go Green at the driving school. How do we respond to inclement weather, extreme weather conditions, and how is it that we become aware of those things, and what are our policies around that?
Okay, so well, I'll first start. A lot of parents and students get anxious when the first lesson lands on a day that is supposed to rain.
Of course.
And now, one of the things that we want to do here at Go Green is alleviate any of those concerns. So, first of all, the rain is not an end-all, be-all, like you shouldn't be in it at all. You know what I mean?
There's very obviously levels.
There's levels to this thing. And what do you call it? And one of the good things about having a lesson during in some rain is you're going to get used to driving in that. And every driver is going to have to drive in the rain at some point. So it's very important to take this time when there's an instructor in the vehicle. Because then they can walk you through the process.
Absolutely.
And windshield wipers, you don't have to touch it every time. You know what I mean? And the instructor will also take over.
Give you some assistance.
Give you some assistance. And some of our vehicles are actually equipped with automatic windshield wipers. Which is a wonderful feature.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But as far as our policies go, we always listen, and what we go on, and when we start canceling lessons, we would be going on with the Alameda County emergency notification. So when you get those texts that flash flooding or heavy rain, heavy winds, that's when we start calling it. Because then they'd let us know that there's going to be flooding. They'd let us know that there's going to be, potential branches or hazards or power outages. And that way we can kind of prepare and be like, maybe it's not the best to put a new driver in these situations. So to alleviate some of the concerns that we hear from new students and parents is we're looking to the governing body for those warnings, and we're monitoring the situation. We have air quality monitoring. We have wind, rain, heat. Those are all things that we monitor constantly to make sure that our students are safe and the lessons are going on as safely as possible.
And those are our proactive measures. And then on top of that, all of our instructors, we've given we've empowered them and encouraged them. If a situation ever becomes, dangerous during a lesson, be it weather, be it, wind knocking stuff out of the tree, all that stuff that you mentioned, sometimes isn't quite predicted right. So they might say, you expect wind level of, 50 and all of a sudden it's 75, then it's a whole, or, certain level of rain and it's a lot more than that, or traffic lights start to go out or things like that. And then all of our instructors know then at that point, safety's number one. shut the lesson down, and we reschedule.
Yeah, and the rescheduling, that like once the lesson's canceled,
yeah,
it's you get the lesson again.
Absolutely.
You know, we're not like counting. Oh, you had 16 minutes of lesson. You know,
right?
No, it's you get a whole nother lesson.
Yeah,
because like we're here to be safe.
Yes.
And we're also here to teach. And when you can't be safe, you can't teach.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like there has to be that trust that you're not gonna like die.
Right. Unless it's like a fourth lesson or a fifth lesson that someone's adding on specifically for inclement weather. And even then, I'm thinking, if it gets too bad, we're not going to be out there.
Yeah, when the power's out and the lights are out.
When the traffic lights go out.
Yeah, there's no control. Like, we can only control what we do in the vehicle.
Right.
And the other people, especially in those times when the lights are out and everything, you can't trust other drivers.
The roads become chaotic. And that hot tip to any driver out there, it's one thing if the traffic lights are blinking red, right? There's a malfunction, and then the blinking red, all of a sudden now it's a stop sign, which delays things. But when the traffic lights go out, it absolute chaos, because now any indication to slow down or stop is gone, and it requires 100% locked in driver who notices the no light situation, because usually no light means go.
Yeah.
It's right. There's nothing that says stop. It means go. So I definitely recommend, and it's definitely our policy here, that as soon as traffic lights go out, all lessons are canceled. In fact, the standing orders for instructors to pull over immediately. Instructors take over driving and get them back, home safely or back to the office, and all their bets are off. Nothing else matters at that point. Just 100% safety.
And I know some people are going to be like, well, the Alameda County thing, they send out flash flood warnings all the time.
Right.
And it's not for the entire area, but
correct.
Any portion of Alameda County could receive those. Could receive these things.
That's right.
So it seems like a little bit overcautious.
Sure.
But we've had situations where a street gets flooded.
Right.
And we're in electric vehicles.
Yeah.
These vehicles cannot ford rivers. We're not in the Oregon Trail.
Yeah, we're not trying that even if they weren't. I mean, right?
But you don't want to get caught somewhere where you're stuck.
Right.
And especially with a student, and their parents are going to be worried. Their parents are going to try to get to us, and it could just cause
we have a responsibility to our students, to our employees. General responsibility to the community, to not put to all the first responders, right? To not put ourselves we created an emergency by not,
we're stuck here.
Right,
you got to come helicopter us out.
Right. No, unnecessary. Absolutely unnecessary. And so, one thing, we were checking on our Alameda County Sheriff Office warnings, and we received a red flag warning for this Thursday, the 17th, through Saturday, the 19th at 5 p.m. High wind advisory, potential fires. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah, those ones are the ones that they're warning you, hey, high wind.
Right.
That means we could lose power.
Right.
And so if we lose power, that means
Right.
Yeah. We have to follow through with that procedure.
Yeah.
But usually PG&E gives us a shutoff warning.
Yep.
Additionally.
Yep.
We haven't got notified of that, but
right.
Alameda County usually is the first, because they have the National Weather Service that give them the warning.
Yeah.
And then they pass that down to the people that provide services. And so if we do get those warnings, the students are notified.
Right.
But if they're not, if we don't get those warnings, then the lessons go on as normal.
Yeah. No, so, lessons that, through the weekend are going to go on as normal, with the instructors reminded.
Mm-hmm.
Any sort of dangerous situations come up or arise, then, we take care of business and focus on safety.
Yeah, and to tease a little bit, we can get into the high wind, dangers of driving in high wind. Everyone's driven through, the 580 through Tracy and everything.
Right.
Gotten almost blown into another lane.
Yeah.
But that's for another episode.
Yeah, we'll save that for next week.
Yeah.
So I think that wraps it up, Mike. I think we're in good shape here.
Oh, yeah. No, I feel very comfortable. And for today's question,
yes,
I would like to ask our viewers to think about, what would you bring in your car to help you in an emergency.
Okay. So
Yeah.
what kind of like just general in general?
Yeah, just
emergency?
general. I want to
Okay.
see what people are thinking, like
Yeah.
you know, blankets,
Right.
water,
Yeah.
you know, like
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
Do most people have an emergency kit in their vehicle?
Right.
You know, like stuff like that. Like I want to
Absolutely.
see what our viewers are toting around in that trunk.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's a great question. So please comment, let us know, subscribe to our channel, and thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, thank you guys.